5 more seconds to go. And our time's up. Our time's up. Let's go. Last set of warm up. 1, 2, 3, and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. High knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. So we have 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and time's up. Now, as you can see our setup as I had earlier placed, we're going to do hammer curls and bicep curls. So I'll demonstrate what hammer curls are. Alright, so get yourself seated. Don't lean back. Sit on the edge in such a way that you're able to sit upright. Alright, we're going to do 15 repetitions. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 4 more, 12, 13, 14, 1 more, 15. Well done. Then we're going to get 30 seconds rest. 30 seconds rest. Starting now. 30 seconds rest. Starting now. So on the next set, we're going to do full bicep curl where we bring the water bottle here and all the way down. Remember, all this workout, you can use a dumbbell, you can use smaller water bottles, you can use anything that has weight, that has equal measure of weight on each arm, so it doesn't have to be a water bottle. So don't feel restricted to the water bottles I'm using here. It's only that it's what is available for me to use. There we go, time's up. Time's up. So we're going to take 1 water bottle, like that, and do a bicep curl. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Remember, we are doing 3 sets of the interchanging workouts. We have the hammer curl and the normal bicep curl. Yeah. The hammer curl. As usual, walk around. After all, you'll be sitting down. 10 more seconds to go. 10 more seconds to go. 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds. Our time's up. Our time's up. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Walk around as usual. We have 15 more seconds. 15 more seconds to go. 15 more seconds to go. All right. 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds. And time's up. Our time's up. Our time's up. Let's take the water bottle. Go to the full range bicep curl. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well done. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Walk around. Walk around. Walk around. Our rest time starts now. Walk around. Walk around. All right. All right. All right. All right. Walk around. We have 5 more seconds to go. 5 more seconds to go. And time's up. Time's up. We're going for our last set. Our last set of that combo. Our last set. 1, 2, 3, and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well done, well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Walk around, walk around. Our rest time starts now. All right, all right, all right, all right. 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds. 5, 3, 2, and there we go. Time's up. We're going to do the last set of this. 1, 2, 3, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well done, well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. seconds to go. And there we go. Time's up. Time's up. So our next workout is going to be a shoulder press. So we're going to use one of the water bottles. Sitting there, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Above your head, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, we're going to 20, 17, 18, 19, 20. Perfect. All right. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Walk around. 10 more seconds, 10 more seconds. We're going to combine that with an upright row for the delts. We're going to combine that and also the traps. So you hold the 2 water bottles again. 1, 2, 3 and go. Yes, like that, like your elbows are pointing up. So let's go for 15. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well done. Your rest time starts now. Your rest time starts now. Rest time starts now. Walk around. Your rest time starts now. We have 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds. And there we go. Time's up. Time's up. All right, back to the shoulder press. Back to the shoulder press. 1, 2, 3 and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, keep going, 17, 18, 19, 20. Well done. Our rest time starts now. 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 We have 5 more seconds to go. 5 more seconds. And time's up. Time's up. Let's go. Upright row. 1, 2, 3 and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Walk around. Our rest time starts now. time's up. Time's up. All right. Set number 3. Let's kill it. 1, 2, 3 and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, keep going, 17, you got this, 18, 19, and of course 20. All right, your rest time starts now. Your rest time starts now. Your rest time starts now. Make sure you're walking around to give yourself active rest. Your rest time starts now. Make sure you're giving yourself active rest by walking around. We have 5 more seconds left, 5 more seconds of rest before we do the upright row. 5 more seconds rest before we do. Our time's up. Our time's up. All right, let me just pull this chair back because we won't need it for now. 1, 2, 3, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well done. So you're gonna put that aside. Our rest time starts now. So one thing we're going to do as our finishing workout for the day, we're going to do chair dips. Yes, chair dips are for tricep, but when you go low enough, you'll feel it on your shoulder. So we'll just maximize by trying to go as low as we possibly can so that it reaches our shoulder, right? So we're going to do like 10 repetitions times 3, 10 repetitions times 3. We have 5 more seconds. So if you're in the gym and you have that dip machine, just go as low as you possibly can until you feel this part of your delt. Right, so we're going to do that, but we're going to improvise because we are at home. All right, 1, 2, 3 and go until you feel your shoulder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Remember, when you're doing any dip, come up using your arm. I know you're engaging your triceps, but if you go deep enough, we are also reaching out for those shoulders. Alternatively, you could do pike push-ups, but that's for another day. I'll show you in another episode on how to do pike push-ups. We did them before, but we can do them again then. Today we're going to do the dips low enough to reach our shoulders. And time's up. Time's up. Let's go. Set number 2. 1, 2, 3 and go. 1, 2, feel the weight on the delt. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. We have 1 more set to go. Well done so far. You've done an amazing job. We have trained our upper body, We're basically looking at those shoulders and of course some biceps to go with it. So when you put on those sleeveless, you're gonna be looking so good. We have 5 more seconds to go. 5 more seconds. And there we go. Our time's up. Our time's up. 1, 2, 3, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well done, well done. If you pushed through the workout without breaking, well done. You did an amazing job, and thank you for taking control of your day and for keeping me company. I'm your host, Evelyn Owala of Vival Health and Fitness, EVEAL on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. You can follow us for more tips, but for here at Tizi Nyumbani, we just want to thank NTV for having us and you for keeping us company. Have a lovely day. Go out there and conquer the world. Bye.
I wiggle my finger.
Kadogo and Juma are friends who love running. They run together every day. One day, Juma said, "Let's run across our continent, together with Africans from many countries. Let's go, we can do it."
Now I can sit down and hear a story.
What a relief! Thank you, Gold Crown.
If regular milk makes you feel uncomfortable, try Gold Crown lactose-free milk. Milk that loves you.
We are Nation, Africa's independent media brand. We are committed to empowering all Africans, from the young to the old, from the curious to the educated, and from the heart of the cities to the rural areas. We are Nation. Join us, because if you want to get far, you do it together. Nation. Empower Africa.
This is NTV.
Greetings, East Africa, and thank you for joining us on your world on this first Monday of November. The month or the year is almost over. 2020 came and went amidst this pandemic, but we thank God we're here to tell of its happenings. And some may call this month Movember or No Shave November in support of men's health. Now, the goal of No Shave November is actually to grow awareness by men embracing their hair, could be the moustache or the beards, which many cancer patients lose, and letting it grow wild and free. And speaking of which, this morning we create awareness on some of those cancers, putting special focus on the male experience. I will be joined by an oncologist and of course those with lived experience and somebody who is ensuring that they actually make use of this No Shave November to make a difference in the lives of the less fortunate. My name is Gladys Gachanja, and this is what else you can expect. It's the Male Cancer Awareness Month, but what is the relation of that to men not shaving beards? Well, we find out today.
I'm gonna take a video every day of 1 second to see the evolution.
Have you ever seen a beard growing in real time? Well, you get to see this massive transformation.
I would advise all men to go for screening every year, irrespective of your age.
As I mentioned, today we shed light on prostate cancer and other cancers that affect men and the importance of creating awareness. Breach of privacy fears are high in Singapore after they introduced face scan IDs. Thank you for joining us on this broadcast. As I mentioned today, we focus on men's health, particularly cancer, and we will be focusing on some of those and actually have those with lived experience joining us on this conversation. And speaking of which, our conversation of the day and the question of the day to you is, are you or do you know a man who is a cancer survivor or a patient? And out of that experience, what is the biggest challenge in treating and managing cancer? Well, talk to us. That hashtag new normal on our social media platforms, and you can reach us using that number at the bottom of your screen. For now, let's take a look at the numbers in as far as COVID-19 is concerned around the world. Those numbers stand this morning at 46,811,281 confirmed cases globally. Now, out of that number, 33,754,587 have totally recovered from the same, and unfortunately we have lost 1,205,209 people to COVID-19. In Kenya, well, that number stands at 55,877 confirmed cases of COVID-19, and out of that number, 37,194 people have totally recovered, and unfortunately, we've lost 1,013 Kenyans to COVID-19. Now, this is a worrying number, and the trajectory is looking very worrisome, and that's why stakeholders, health practitioners are saying, do take care, do not ignore those precautions. Remember to wash your hands regularly, wear your face mask, and of course, ensure that you keep your distance. Well, let's take a look at some of the other stories making headlines this morning. If you can have that up on the auto cue. And still, we're actually starting off in Ivory Coast, and this is where elections were held, and the NGO Dialogue Initiative and Research Action for Peace, which deployed observers to the country during the presidential election, reports that 23% of polling stations remained closed all day. Now, opposition leaders on Saturday already dismissed the election as a failure, and several opposition figures, including exiled former rebel chief, announced they no longer recognize Ouattara as president. Ouattara, 78, had said after his second term he planned to make way for a new generation, but the sudden death of his chosen successor prompted him to seek a third term. Now, on October 16th, French school teacher Samuel Paty is beheaded by a Chechen extremist in a Paris suburb after showing his pupils some of the Mohammed cartoons during a lesson on freedom of expression. Now, President Emmanuel Macron responds by issuing a passionate defense of free speech, vowing that the country will not give up cartoons. Now, the declaration and Macron's unveiling of a plan to defend France's secular values against the trend of Islamist separatism prompted an angry reaction from Turkish president. Now, he says Muslims in Europe are subject to a lynch campaign and calls for a boycott of French goods. In several Gulf states, French president has actually gotten, or rather French products have been taken off the shelves. Now, back in the continent, and two jihadists have been sentenced to death by the Malian justice system for having committed the Radisson Blu and La Thérèse attacks, which blooded Bamako in 2015 after 2 days of trial held under high security. Mamari Diarra, the lawyer for certain civil parties, said, "Our first expectation is that the motivation of those who are accused in this case be understood. Our main objective is that this right be said, that sanctions be taken, and that the educational role of the hearing of this assize court also allows not only Malians to understand what is happening, but also those who are tempted to go towards this kind of practice to understand that we are in a state of law." Elsewhere, South Africa's largest opposition party elects John Steyn Hussein as a leader who vows to take the centre-right Democratic Alliance to greater heights after a slump in electoral support.
Fellow South Africans, I couldn't think of a more fitting place from me to be speaking with you today than this beautiful city of eThekwini. I did not run to become the leader of this party for its own sake. I'm here today because I want to take the DA to greater heights in a fight for our country, where each and every citizen has the power to build a dignified life. People want to stand on their own 2 feet as self-reliant, autonomous human beings. They want power and freedom to make their own choices and build a life they value. This is what the DA will offer under my leadership. People power, not state power.
And to our focus of the day, Vincent Ayalo shares his experience with prostate cancer and the journey to recovery.
2010, I began experiencing problem in my urine. It was too frequent. I could go to toilet almost 6 times a night. That caused me concern. So I went to see a doctor. I was examined again for PSA, and they found it's 128. So they suspected cancer. I didn't believe that. I went for another test. After 1 week, it was 148. The doctor told me, this is dangerous, you must get down for treatment. By October, they started treatment. They started with radiotherapy. This was about 35 sessions. After that, they started hormonal therapy. What I'm doing now is purely management. Management involves suppressing the hormones so that the cancer cells do not have what to eat because they live on the hormones. Unfortunately, during the time when mine was diagnosed, I met all the things for my own pocket. That means my relatives and friends, because the NHI was not covering it that time. At the moment, I hope they are covering it, but for management, they are not. Treatment, they are covering a part of it. Life is precious, don't take it for granted. That thing I've learned, and my life is changed. I live positively, and I fight cancer positively. I would advise all men to go for screening every year, irrespective of your age.
And that is the story of Vincent Ayalo, and he talks about his journey with prostate cancer. So this morning, we try to understand some of these cancers that are common in men, some are common in both sexes, but today we would like to highlight men's health. So we are really focusing on the male experience. And to help us walk this talk is Dr. Setna Mwanzi, who is an oncologist from the Aga Khan University Hospital. We are also joined virtually by Solomon Joroge, who is a breast cancer survivor. We'll be finding out about that in a moment. Moses Otieno joins us in the other studio. He's actually a bone cancer survivor, and later on we'll be joined by somebody who is walking the No Shave November campaign. Well, thank you all for joining us on this conversation. And before we get to it, Dr. Setna, if we do remember that in 2018, the WHO actually released a global cancer report, and it showed the top 5 most frequent cancers in Kenya. If we can have those graphics up just to remind ourselves, in Kenya, the most common cancers amongst men, at least the first 5, prostate, esophagus, colorectum, Kaposi sarcoma, non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Amongst women, the 5 most frequent cancers are breast, cervical, esophagus, colorectum, and stomach cancer. And the 5 that affect both men and women: breast cancer, cervical, esophagus, prostate, and colorectum. Well, with that in mind, you will understand why we'll be touching on some of those that have been highlighted at the top 5. And before we get to the nitty-gritties of the cancers, Daktari, why is it so important for us to focus on the men?
Thank you, Gladys, for inviting me. I think that women are better at going to hospital. So it's important to focus on the men because, of course, the men are the leaders of our homes. Most times they're leaders in our society, but they're also not very good at taking care of themselves. So we find that their health-seeking behaviors are not as good as women. They are more likely to stay with symptoms for longer before they seek health. Also, in terms, if you're looking at cancer specifically, like you mentioned, prostate cancer, it's very easy to diagnose prostate cancer. There are lots of treatments for it. So these are things that men need to come and seek healthcare for because there are treatments available. Many times we are afraid to go to hospital because we think, if I'm told I have cancer, it's a death sentence, and that if I find out I have cancer, I'm going to die. Whereas, as you've heard from the survivor, I mean, there's hope. He's done his treatment, he's still alive. So it's important for men to know that even if you are diagnosed with cancer, there are treatments that are available to them.
Okay, and we talked about prostate. We've had from Vincent's experience. What causes prostate cancer?
So that's an interesting question, and we know that there are some risk factors for prostate cancer. The first thing is being a man. Obviously, women don't have the prostate. And then it's more common in older men. So more than 80% of all the cases are in men over the age of 65 years. Not to say that younger men don't get it, but the older that men are, the more likely they're going to get it. If they have a positive family history of prostate cancer. And then now more and more we are knowing that there are some genetic factors that lead to prostate cancer. One of the genes is something that we associate with female cancers, which is the BRCA gene associated with breast cancer, but we know that it increases the risk for prostate cancer in men. There are other less frequent genetic factors. I think less associations are things like obesity and then diet. So having a diet that's high in fat is linked with an increased risk of prostate cancer. And then diets that have tomatoes and vegetables associated with a reduced risk of prostate cancer. And then I have to say that those are the things we know, but in majority of people we won't know why they get prostate cancer and the other person doesn't get prostate cancer.
Now you mentioned the risk factors. We're living at a time where our lifestyles have changed with a lot of consumption of alcohol, smoking, you know, the diets that are not really good for us. So as an oncologist, are you seeing more cases of prostate cancer today than before?
I think we are seeing more cases, and it's not only just about the diet. It's also that in Kenya we've improved in our healthcare. So in terms of diagnostics, in terms of our lab capacity, in terms of our radiology capacity, that has also means that we are picking up more cancers than before. So of course, like you've mentioned, we've really changed how we eat. We are not exercising as much as we used to before, and there are more people smoking, and obviously we have a huge problem with alcohol intake in Kenya. So a lot of those things are contributing not just to prostate cancer, but to other cancers like colorectal cancer that you've highlighted.
And now that we're talking about men and we've spoken about how they have a bad health-seeking behavior, most of them that I've spoken to are very afraid of that test that is done to ascertain if somebody has prostate cancer. Talk about how times have changed and why it is important to actually go for screening.
Yeah, so I think that the issue of screening is has changed over the years. Initially, the screening that we were doing was for all men over the age of 40, and the gold standard screening test was actually a blood test called the PSA, which is a prostate-specific antigen. This is a protein that's produced by the prostate cancer cell. The other test that men fear is the digital rectal exam, where a finger is inserted in the rectum and you can actually feel the prostate through the rectum. And basically when you're doing the exam, you're looking for any nodules or any swellings, and you're seeing whether it is enlarged. So that's the thing that men actually find very uncomfortable, because it's very intrusive. We are looking up their backside, but it's also an important test. However, you can actually miss quite a lot of prostate cancer by doing that test, so it's actually not the gold standard.
You mean the index one?
Yes, the one where you put the finger from the rectum.
And we'll talk more about that and of course the stigma around even the screening. Now let's understand another form of cancer, and we have Moses Otieno, who is a bone cancer survivor. Moses, when were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed back in 2014.
Why did you go to hospital?
Okay, there's a day I was in school and I fainted on the parade. So the head teacher called my parents, and because I had explained to my father earlier, he knew what was happening. So he took me to Nema Hospital where X-ray was done. And then from Nema Hospital, we went to Kiambu. And we saw a doctor, but he didn't tell us what was happening. He just wrote a referral letter, and we went to Kenyatta. So from Kenyatta is where the treatment started. We used to go there every Monday looking for bed, and now the leg, it was on my right leg, it was swelling. So that swelling is what made us go to the hospital.
Okay, so when did they do the test? At Kenyatta?
The test was done March, going to April. And then we stayed like 1.5 months waiting for the results.
And what did they tell you? Which kind of bone cancer did you have?
So after the results were out, my dad was called in. I was with him. And then he was told like, your son has bone cancer and we need to amputate him. So when I heard that, I went out because I was still young, 17 years old, and I was confused. So all of the information was passed to my dad. But what the doctor told us was, this is bone cancer, and it's a rare type of cancer.
Okay. At that point, had you ever heard of cancer in your family?
No. At that point, I had not heard of that. That was my first time. In fact, that was my first time hearing about that word cancer.
And you say they said you had to be amputated. How long after diagnosis were you amputated?
So after diagnostic, I went back to hospital, and then I was readmitted. That is going to May. And then because at that time there was a lot of accidents, so the theater were fully booked. So I stayed there until July of 7th. Is when I went to the theater and I was amputated.
Okay, now life after the amputation, I can imagine how much of it changed. But even as you go through the life, now that you're here to tell your story, are you still on medication?
No.
So the moment they amputated, you were good?
So after amputation, I was supposed to go for chemotherapy. But back in 2014, chemotherapy, radiotherapy were not covered under NHIF. So I was supposed to have 10,000 after every visit. That is after 3 weeks. And that was a burden to my family. So I went through just one cycle. But when we went back, what the doctor told us was, for you, amputation was everything. So chemotherapy and radiotherapy were just to confirm that the cancer is out, but amputation was the main procedure.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing your story. And Dr. Setna, I'm sure Moss's story is one that you've heard in different quarters and presenting in different ways. I asked him which kind of bone cancer he was diagnosed with because there are 3 of them. Talk about them.
So the bone can be involved in many ways. You can have a primary cancer of the bone, which is what Moses had called osteosarcoma. And you can have cancers coming from other areas that are affecting the bone, which is called metastatic disease. And that type of bone lesion will be like you have breast cancer and it spreads to the bone, or prostate cancer and spread to the bone. But primarily the bone cancers are the sarcomas he's talking about. So you could have the one coming inside the bone, which is osteosarcoma. You can have the ones that are like a chondrosarcoma, which is from the cartilage of the bone, and some called synovial sarcoma as well. So, I mean, I think those are very technical terms, but the important thing is if it's primarily coming from the bone, it's treated differently. If it has come from another disease and spread to the bone, it's treated differently.
Now, he was only 17 years old. Is that a unique case?
In the sense that osteosarcomas are most common in this age group, so a lot of our patients with osteosarcoma are either in this young teenage group or they're much older. So this is it's not a common cancer, but it's a common cancer in this adolescent teenage years.
What is the cause?
So the actual causes are not known, so it's actually not known why it occurs and why it occurs in this age group, but just to say that this is one of the common cancers that we see in the adolescent group.
Okay, now in his case, he was amputated, never went through radiotherapy or chemotherapy. Was he just lucky?
I think he was lucky. The standard treatment now is we do 3 cycles of chemotherapy before surgery, then have surgery, and then do another 3 more cycles after surgery, because we know that this cancer can spread to other areas, especially the lung. So the chemotherapy is basically to help to prevent this cancer from spreading. So he's been alive for 6 years without any issues, so he's very, very lucky that the surgery alone and one cycle of chemotherapy has kept his disease at bay, and we wish him the best. Yeah.
Okay, and in this case, he says it was the first time he was hearing of the word cancer, meaning there perhaps wasn't any other family member with cancer. Is this common?
Yes, so it's I don't think it's a cancer that is related to familial history.
Yes.
There are some genetic changes that lead to the cancer that might not necessarily run in families. In fact, we often see index cases like a child has been well, they turn 16 and they notice a swelling in one of the limbs. That's a very common presentation. No family history of any other cancers, no risk factors. Most of the time they are not smoking, they have not taken alcohol. So there are some genetic changes, but no actual risk factor that we can do anything about to prevent this cancer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, a lot of information coming out of this conversation. Now, let's hear from Solomon, who is a GIST cancer survivor. Solomon, first of all, what does GIST mean? Can you hear me? Okay, we seem to be having a technical hitch with Solomon, but we'll get over to him. Now, Moses, when you got amputated and you had to leave hospital and start life anew with this disability, how was life after that?
So, amputation came with a lot of challenges, mostly negative and positive, because here I am, I'm still young, 16 years old, and I am amputated, so everything changed. But there's positive side to that, because I met other cancer survivors who came and gave me support. They shared with me their stories, and that's why I'm here today to share my story, because they gave me that courage. And my schoolmates, my friends, they were there, but life changed very, very badly.
Okay, when you say life changed, what are some of the things you used to do that you couldn't do anymore?
Okay, first of all, the feeling of like I have my right leg. I can wear 2 shoes. That changed. And there were some things that I used to do, but I couldn't do. Let's say moving around with water, maybe doing my house chores. So those changed. And then I was like, after this, like, what type of work will I do? I can't go and do something like mjengo. So mostly I would depend on the work that I'll be sitting, mostly. So that scared me a lot. So I had to work hard in school so that I can at least get a better work. But in terms of friends, nothing changed, because they were there for me. They gave me their support. My family, my mom, my dad, they were there for me.
Now, listening to his story, he clearly is very blessed, because most people, cancer leaves you with a permanent disability, and it totally changes your life forever. And adjustment to this new life can be very, very intense for most people. So as an oncologist, what is the role of psychosocial support?
It's very, very important. Not just so the initial diagnosis for most patients comes as a shock to them, because they don't think that this is something that can happen to them or happen to a member of their family. So just that initial, being told that you have cancer, and the way there's so much stigma and lack of information. So every time someone hears cancer, they think, oh my God, I'm going to die. So they need a lot of support at the initial time of diagnosis. They need a lot of psychosocial support throughout their treatment. For example, for Moses, losing a limb is very traumatic at a young age, because your friends are running around, but you're not able to run around with them. You can't play football with them. There are many limitations to his life now that weren't there before, but thankfully he got a prosthesis which allows him to be able to walk. Also, some of the treatments like chemotherapy, they change people, they change your physical appearance, you lose your hair, You lose your sense of taste. There are so many things that people lose. Some people lose their jobs because they're missing work so frequently to go to for the clinic visits, or people think that they're going to die. Some people lose family members. Like I have a patient who the husband said, "You're of no use to me because you've had a mastectomy." So there's a lot of loss that happens with treatment, and then there's also the side effects that comes with treatment, and also things like finances that become an issue. Like he mentioned, he was not able to complete his treatment because of the financial burden that it was presenting to him. That can cause a lot of psychosocial stress, not just to him, but to his family members as well.
Yeah. Okay, Solomon, you are now with us. If you can hear me, you are a GIST cancer survivor, which means gastrointestinal stromal tumor. Now, Dr. will tell us more about it. But when were you diagnosed, Solomon? Solomon?
Okay, me, I was diagnosed that. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Hello? Yes, I think I was diagnosed back in 2017. Hello?
Yes, continue.
I was back in 2017, that's when I was diagnosed. And then thereafter I did first of all, I thought it was hernia. I thought it was hernia. And then after doing another diagnosis, that's when it was discovered that it was GIST. Then I was advised to go and do it.
Okay.
Once the operation started back in 2017, since then I've been using medication and this.
Okay, now I can hear you in bits and pieces. Your connection is still a bit unstable, but let's just give you a phone call so you can give us more details on the same. In the meantime, Dr. can actually define for us what GIST cancer is.
So GIST is actually gastrointestinal stromal tumor. As the word says, gastrointestinal, so it's a tumor that will affect the gastrointestinal tract, so anything from the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine. And this is a rare tumor that comes from the stroma, or the connective tissues of this GI system. And because the GI system is very long, it can present in many ways. For example, if it's in the stomach, most people might have bleeding, like vomiting blood. They may have problems eating, weight loss, swelling in the tummy, so having a full tummy because there's a mass swelling. So it can present in various ways, and that is why I think many times the diagnosis is late, because it can, if you have like abdominal pain, most people are told you have ulcers or you have amoeba if you have change in your bowel habits. So it takes some time for it to be diagnosed. The reason why GIST is kind of different from other cancers of the gastrointestinal system is that they don't respond very well to drugs like chemotherapy, but there is a specific drug called imatinib, which is what Solomon is on, that actually helps to improve outcomes for patients significantly. So it's a special tumor in that sense, that we can have a targeted treatment for it. So like he said, the mainstay, if it can be removed, that's the best thing. And if it can't be removed, for example, it has spread to the liver or other organs, then there's this medication called Gleevec or imatinib that really helps to improve outcomes for patients.
So you're saying if it can be removed, just looking at that picture, if we can have it back on the screen, it is in a very, very delicate place. You can barely even see it. So is that what you have to consider, the delicacy of a surgery, or where it is?
Like I said, it can appear in any part of the GI system. So many times these are large tumors, so the surgeon may have difficulty in removing them. And if the cancer has spread, for example, to the liver, then removing the primary is not necessarily the best thing unless someone is having significant symptoms such as excessive bleeding, or it is blocking the passage of food. So if it is caught early and it can be removed, that is the main treatment, and then we give them the tablets called imatinib. So it's the fact that it can appear in any part of the GI system means that the symptoms for different patients will be varied, and it means that the treatment, the surgical treatment will be varied for different patients. But ultimately, if they need to get tablet treatment, then this imatinib is very specific for those patients, in terms of getting response, and they don't respond very well to chemotherapy.
Okay, now Solomon joins us on phone. Now, Solomon, you mentioned that the doctors thought you had a hernia. How exactly was it presenting itself?
Oh, okay. It was because
Please switch off your television.
Okay.
Yes?
Yeah, I used to have a swelling.
We seem to be having a feedback with your phone.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Okay, even as we sort that out for him, it presents like for him a hernia, which means there was a bulge in his stomach, and you say because of how it's varied from patient to patient, it increases the chances of misdiagnosis, right? Yes. Okay, so what should specialists really look out for to tell it apart?
I think most of the times there will be a mass swelling, so proper imaging, so having a good CT scan to see exactly what the problem is before any surgery is done is important. And if possible, having a biopsy, which is the removal of a small piece of the tumor, to take it to the lab for testing. Because cancers of the GI or the gastrointestinal system are many, so this is just one of them. So getting an accurate diagnosis by the pathologist having a look under the microscope is very important.
Okay, now there is another cancer that is very similar to just even as the doctor is describing it, and that is colorectal cancer. Now we have John Kamau who went through that cancer, and he now shares with us his story. As bowel cancer, colon cancer, or rectal cancer is any cancer that affects the colon and the rectum. Colorectal cancer is one of the most common cancer worldwide and is easily preventable by routine screening. According to the 2018 World Health Organization report, colorectal cancer is the third most common cancer in Kenya. Many people with colon cancer experience no symptoms in the early stages of the disease, and surgery is the most common treatment and may result to a patient using a colostom bag, which plays the role of the rectum.
I'll go with my wife out, we'll eat something, I'll have a stomach problem. And my wife will tell me, Daddy, but many men don't need to have this. Go to and see a doctor. Then I'll go to a physician, check. No, it's gas. One of my brothers came and told me, John, that stomach of yours should be checked, because I went to the washroom and I saw a lot of blood in my stool. Immediately you see blood in your stool, a lot of it. Take caution. So I went to see a gastrologist. I went for a colonoscopy, I did a CT scan, confirmed that I had colon cancer stage 2 going to stage 3. My journey started in India, in a hospital in India called BLK. I was there for 2 months, where I was supposed to do 2 surgeries, but I ended up doing 3. Something like colorectal cancer is not supposed to kill, because it comes, it's in a part that you can stay with. I've not been having a colon for the last 6 years, and I'm still surviving. We have been doing a surveillance on the colon cancer every 6 months, doing a colonoscopy and endoscopy until early last year, that is 2019, when we detected again there was rectal cancer. So we had to do another surgery that was done in May 2019, which was successful. So now I'm cancer-free. The doctors in India told my wife that I live only for 6 months. So according to the doctors in India, I was supposed to live until 2014, July. But because God is good, He has given me life, and here I am. 6 years almost going down the line. After the 6 months, it has become 6 years, so God is good. Cancer is really a challenge financially. I will still go a bit on NHIF, because when I was in India, NHIF did not do anything for me. The best thing I'll tell anybody going through cancer, trust in God, don't lose hope, keep fighting, Many have done it. We are here. We are many, in fact, fighting, and we are still soldiering on, and we know that God is with us.
The story of John Kariuki will come back, and Dr. will explain more about colorectal cancer and why it's related to the other cancer she was talking about that is called GIST. Stay with us.
We are Nation, Africa's independent media brand. We are committed to empowering all Africans, from the young to the old, from the curious to the educated, and from the heart of the cities to the rural areas. We are Nation. Join us, because if you want to get far, you do it together. Nation. Empower Africa.
Welcome to Pishi Home Chef.
Oh, just perfect. We're gonna be cooking breakfast.
Making chicken shikaki, carbonara.
And I'm so happy to be on this show.
Most people think I can't cook again. I forgot onions.
So I have to call her, literally to call her and ask her, and say your recipe.
Pishi Yoi.
Check out at Pishi254.
Fact finder from the BBC.
When they speak about Ebola, you may see people there saying that it is a business from outside these countries.
We'll tell you how misinformation is keeping Ebola patients away from clinics and driving the numbers of infection.
How did Nigeria go polio-free for 3 years? We went digging for the facts.
And former Ghanaian President Jerry Rawlings recounts his experience as a victim of fake news.
And we also tell you how social media posts saved a sick giraffe in a Kenyan game park.
What a relief! Thank you, Gold Crown. If regular milk makes you feel uncomfortable, try Gold Crown lactose-free milk. Milk that loves you.
Japo njia bora zaidi ya kuhakikisha usafi wa mikono ni kutumia maji na sabuni, katika baadhi ya sehemu wameweka mchanganyiko huu maalum wa kutoa uchafu maarufu sanitizer, na tunahimizwa kila tunapotumia tuhakikishe kwamba sehemu zote za mkono zimeupata mchanganyiko huo kwa kufanya hivi kwa takriban sekunde 20 hivi, na tuhimizane wenyewe kwa wenyewe kufanya usafi, manake wapo mwenzako hatafanya usafi basi anakutia wewe hatarini.
At this time, I want to paraphrase another text from the Old Testament, and this is Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 6. And it says that, nevertheless, I will bring health and healing to it. He was referring to the city of Jerusalem, how it was polluted, how the evils and just crowded the skies and even the streets of Jerusalem, and says, I will heal my people and will let them enjoy abundant peace and security. So God is promising restoration of his people. And I want to give you this hope of restoration that amidst this coronavirus, God is going to heal his people. Are you infected? Are you affected in one way or another as a family, as I am talking to you today? God has promised that he will heal the land, this city. The cities of the world today are crying of COVID-19, but God is saying he will heal them, and he will heal the people and let them enjoy abundance, peace, and security.
Finding meaningful stories takes more drive and passion.
Fathers' involvement in maternal and reproductive health is slowly becoming a game changer.
Getting to the truth takes more determination.
Hakuna
mtu ameshikwa.
Hakuna. Nilikuwa kilio changu ni watoto wanapata shida chakula. Lakini nimeona Kenya yetu watu wamenishika mkono.
Finding real solutions takes more understanding.
Shortage of teachers, lack of textbooks.
Afadhali mtoto awe chini ya miti badala ya awe na chupa ya glue kwa mapua.
And NTV investigates leads to impact.
This building here has got its fair share of criminals.
Who are these COVID billionaires?
Corruption related to PPE, it's actually a murder.
So these are patients with cerebral palsy.
From what I saw being aired in NTV, it really broke my heart.
NTV, stories that impact you.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gachanja. Today we take focus on male cancers on this November. It is called Movember for some people, No Shave November, even as we focus on male cancer. Still with us, Dr. Sitner in studio. She's an oncologist. Moses, who is a bone cancer survivor, and Solomon on phone, who is a breast cancer survivor. Now, Solomon, you were saying you were presenting with a hernia. How long before, after that presentation, did you get a diagnosis? Solomon? How long after that presentation of the hernia did you actually get a diagnosis of cancer?
Okay, after after I thought it was hernia, the doctor advised me, because the place first I started at Metro in Buruburu, but they didn't have the facilities to do the yeast test, so I was advised to go to another facility. That's when I went to Aga Khan after like a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there I did the endoscopy, and that's when it was discovered it was.
At this point, had you ever heard of cancer? Do you have any family members ever suffered from cancer?
Yeah, that's the thing, Gladys, because in my family, we've never experienced such issues. Actually, I've never heard of anyone having cancer, any sort of cancer whatsoever.
Okay, and how old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was 35 years old.
Uh-huh. Now, I am informed that you're part and parcel of a bigger support system of men who have survived breast cancer. So are most of them speaking of the presentation being similar, or each had a different presentation?
Pardon, come again?
Were the symptoms similar for most of the men, or each comes with different presentation?
Oh, okay, I can't quite hear you.
Okay, you can hear me?
Not really. Can you come again? You're breaking.
I'm asking,
Yes.
in that support group you're in, do the men all have the same kind of symptoms, or did they experience it differently?
I can't quite hear you.
Okay, then we'll sort you out in a moment. Now, Dr. before we went to break, we had from John Kariuki, who is a survivor of colorectal cancer, and we've had about the presentation of just how are they similar and how is it easy to actually confuse the two?
So I think they're both involving the gastrointestinal tract. So the colorectal cancer is cancer of the large bowel and the rectum, which is the last part of the large bowel where the fecal matter comes out from. So they could present in a similar way. The most common presentation is change in the bowel habits. Some people will have constipation, some people will have diarrhea, and like John said, blood in the stool is a really is a very what can I say? It's like a sign that you need to get checked. Every time you have blood in your stool, you need to get checked. And because it's affecting the gastrointestinal system, weight loss can be one of the presentation, change in like loss of appetite, vomiting. Those are things that can happen with colorectal cancer. But the most common thing that patients present with is a change in how they are going to the stool, either constipation or diarrhea, and blood in the stool.
Okay, now colorectal cancer is actually one of the top 5, cancers, both in men and in women. Are you seeing more of presentations or these cases coming to your hospital?
Yes, so we are seeing a lot more colorectal cancer, and we are also seeing younger patients, not just before it was thought to be a disease of those who are over the age of 50. So we have quite young patients coming in, 30-year-olds, 28-year-olds, coming with colorectal cancer. So, that's the age group that's most likely to ignore their symptoms because they don't think that this could be something serious. I think the reason that it's increasing is also because we've changed our diet. So a lot of red meat, a lot of nyama choma, alcohol intake, smoking, those are some of the risk factors. And then in some people it's familial. You'll find that there are several people in the family who have history of either colon or rectal cancer. And that's because there are some genetic changes that are also associated with colorectal cancer. So a lot of the things is because we've really changed how we eat, what we do.
Okay, and when it comes to cancer, we are always encouraging screening. Now, for these kind of cancers, especially those in your gut, how do you ensure screening?
Yeah, so screening is actually recommended for colorectal cancer. In people with average risk, that means that they have no family history or no non-genetic problems in their families, then the screening is recommended from the age of 50 years. And what we do, there are several tests that can be done. One is a stool test to look for blood in the stool. The other one is what the survivor, John Kimani, was talking about, having a colonoscopy. A colonoscopy is basically a test where they put a scope, which has a camera at the tip through the backside, and it goes and checks the whole length of the large intestine or the colon. So that's the screening that is done. And the screening from the age of 50, and it's done every 10 years. And those people who have a higher risk, the screening is started much earlier and the frequency is more than the people like the rest of us who have average risk.
Now, you mentioned that there are more younger and younger patients coming to you. So if you're saying I should start my screening at 50, then shouldn't we now start changing around this age as when you're supposed to do the screening?
I think that's an interesting question. I would say that majority of patients will still be over the age of 50, but to encourage younger patients, or all of us, that if you have a symptom that's persisting or is abnormal, go and get yourself checked. Because no screening test is foolproof. It will not catch all the cancers. It will just increase the risk of catching them in the group in which the risk is highest. That's the aim of screening, to pick them up earlier in the group where it's known that the risk is higher for them.
So be aware of your own body so that you can catch some symptoms.
Yeah.
Now, we heard from John saying that he actually has lived without a colon for over 6 years.
Yeah.
Talk about the possibility of this, because for us laymen, it doesn't sound possible.
It's quite possible, and what happens when the patients with colon cancer go for surgery, they most often don't get all the whole colon removed. A large part of it is removed, but there's a part that is still remaining, so that it can help with the remainder of the digestion and the removing of the toxins. So you can't live without a colon. There must be adjustments to the diet, obviously, because the colon has a function. So what you eat and when you eat will be affected. And I think in your presentation you talked about a stoma, having a bag out. So especially for patients with rectal cancer, which is at the lower part, they will tend to get a stoma, which means that all the fecal material will be coming out through a bag. So you can, patients actually live long lives with stomas or without part of their colon. Yeah.
So that means everything goes into the little bag and you just keep changing
that.
Yeah. And do you see this more often in women or in men?
It's a cancer that cuts across both men and women. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not that it's more common in men or in women. Yeah.
Now, before we take a short break, let me hear from Moses. You were talking about how you've had a good support system walking with you through this journey. Who have these been? You talked about your friends. How about your family members?
Okay, about my family members, they are my number one support system. My mom used to come to the hospital each and every day. She was working in Westlands, so she used to come from Westlands to Kenyatta, see me, and then go home. My dad, my brother used to come during the weekends, and my schoolmates, because I was still in Form 3. And at home, my friends were there for me. They were my support system. And I can say now, after being discharged, now the support groups from around the area, they were there for me also.
Okay, and we talk about stigma. Did you face any of this? A young man who is an amputee and living life totally different from his age group?
Yes, during the first 3 months, it was difficult for me. I went through a lot of stigma and also depression, but I managed to come out of it with the support of my family. But I went through stigma because there was a day I was walking outside and then I had someone saying, haya, ona huyu sasa ana mguu. So hiyo kitu ilini hit sana sana sana. But when I went back to the house, my mom talked to me and she told me that, Moses, this is a leg. It's not your hair or your nail, it won't grow back. So even if you stay in here for 10 good years, it won't grow back. Go outside, let them familiarize with you, and then they'll get used to it.
Tough love from the mommy, and at times we need some of that to go along with life challenges. Well, we will be back with more on male cancers right after this break. Stay with us.
Get to Bonga 10 and enjoy 100 minutes Airtel to Airtel. Upgrade to Tubonga Plus 20 to get 100 free minutes Airtel to Airtel, plus 10 additional minutes to all networks. Dial star 544 hash. Not just for a few, but for every one of you. Airtel, the honest network.
Epuka giza sasa na mshumaa wa Sumo. Mshumaa wa Sumo umetengenezwa kwa bidhaa bora zaidi na unakufaa wakati wote. Kila mara unapowaza kuhusu mwangaza katika nyumba yako, waza mshumaa wa Sumo. Unachomeka polepole bila kumwagika na hauishi haraka, hauna moshi wala harufu. Jipatie mshumaa wa Sumo katika duka lililo karibu nawe kwa bei nafuu. Kwa maelezo zaidi, tembelea afisi zetu katika barabara ya Ndume Road, mkabala na Lungalunga Road, nyuma ya Carton Manufacturer, karibu na steji ya matatu ya Sinai. Unaweza pia wasiliana nasi kupitia 0722575619 au 0736028181. Ni mshumaa wa Sumo Kando kutoka Rock Industries Limited.
If my mother could have told me what is FGM all about, maybe I could have said no.
As a woman crying, it moved me so much.
We were born perfect. No need for mutilation.
Anything that touches on culture is really, really sensitive. As a journalist, you're there to tell the story.
Multimedia is the team to beat. I think they're the best team currently.
We have to be watchful of everyone.
Every team is to watch out for.
What a relief! Thank you, Gold Crown. If regular milk makes you feel uncomfortable, try Gold Crown lactose-free milk. Milk that loves you.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gachanja. Now, I know you have probably heard of or taken part, if you can have the auto cue moving, of Movember, which is the month that we take time to actually cater for the needs of men, especially in their health department. And this No Shave November is one that is taking think about the cancers amongst men. However, do you actually know what is No Shave November and what it's all about? Well, here is a snippet.
We all know that No Shave November has become one of the most known trends in the past few years. But it started with a sad story back in 2009, when members of Chicagoland Hill family decided to use this as a means to raise money for charity. And this was in remembrance of Matthew Hill, the father of 8 Hill children who passed away from colon cancer in 2007. Since then, it has become a tradition of having this month. What No Shave November aims is to spread cancer awareness and raise charity to aid people suffering from it. How people can participate is keeping their razors, trimmers, waxes and everything that people use on grooming down for a month of November and let their hair grow free. And donate the money that they would typically spend on grooming for the cause. Till date, noshave.org has raised over $2 million for cancer patients.
And that is the reason why we are focusing on cancers and especially the male experience. And I was just talking to Dr. Sidney. We just came off October where we talked about breast cancer a lot, which sounds like it is focused on the women. And I guess it's time we created November as a tradition focusing on men, right?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah? Okay. And even as we understand more and more about male cancers, I'd like to hear from Solomon. If you can hear me, what was the treatment plan that you were given? Daktari said you are on medication. How long after did you start feeling better?
Okay, after the operation was done back in December 2017. And then after recovery, after when I was out of the hospital, that's when I was discharged, I started on medication. That is back in January. I've been on medication until date. I'm supposed to take the medication for about 3 years. Then from there, I'll be advised whether I'll reduce the dosage. Now it will depend. Again, it will depend on the diagnosis.
Okay.
But so far, so good.
So are you saying you never went through chemo, radiotherapy?
Actually, lucky for me, I never went through chemo because after the operation, I was told now the best thing to do is to manage it, to keep the levels down, so I started immediately on medication.
And when you say managing, what else do you do apart from the medication? Diet, what do you consider?
Okay, on part of diet, I was what I did. I just cut down on sugars. I do a lot of exercise. Nothing much changes, and I don't do alcohol.
Okay, how old are you again, Solomon?
Right now I'm 38 years. I'm 37, going on 38.
And that surgery or even the survival of this cancer, has it changed anything about your lifestyle? Things that you cannot do that you used to do before?
Yeah, actually it has, because you see now, I cannot do. I used to do a lot of physical exercises, like I used to play football, but now due to the nature of the medicines that I'm taking, I cannot do that, because one of the side effects of the medicine is that your skin becomes very light. Now you want to avoid things that would make you bleed. A lot of physical contact you have to avoid.
And earlier we were talking to Moses about his experience with stigma. Have you ever divulged to many people, or is this the first time you're actually talking about your journey with just cancer?
Yeah, a few of my workmates know, my family members know. But the thing is, about stigma, I wouldn't say it's really there, but the thing is, people start treating you with a lot of delicacy. You see, like if you are at work, people will feel that wataki kupatia zile job ngumu because, you know, wanajaribu kukupembeleza. That is what I can say.
Na sasa kama mwanaume wanasema mwanaume ni effort, wewe inakukasirisha wakati mwingine?
Sana. Because you see, like me, I used to love playing football so much. Now I can only watch. It changes a lot in your life.
And we've talked about the beauty and the importance of psychosocial support. Who is your support system, Solomon?
I have a wife, my family, and also I'm this group for cancer survivors called Hands of Kenya, which has really been supportive. Because you see, after when I was diagnosed, I didn't know anyone who had gone through such issues. Yeah, so I can say it has been of really good help.
Okay. Now, Moses, Solomon talks about how he had to change his diet. He's more aware of what he eats and his lifestyle, basically. For you, are there things that you are more aware of now?
Yeah, for me now I'm aware, because now at least I have information about different types of cancers, the risk factors, and diet. So at least now I can say that when I see a particular thing or a sign, at least I can relate it to a certain type of cancer.
Okay, and are there things about your diet that you had to drop and others you had to add?
Basically, when you are diagnosed, you are told don't eat this, take this, do a lot of exercise, because that physical inactivity, when you are not active, that is a risk factor. So we've been conducting a lot of walks. I participate in a lot of exercise, and I also play amputee football. So there is where I get my exercise and I keep fit.
Oh, very well done. Now, Dr. Sitner, the reason why I'm asking this question is because apart from the poor-seeking, health-seeking behavior, men have been said to be less active and they do not really care about their diet. And there are those who say, cancer haipendi sukari. Please, is this a myth or a misconception?
We can start with the cancer haipendi sukari. That's a myth. I think that, and it's a myth that is perpetuated through all the cancer survivor circles. There's no direct evidence to say that taking sugar will increase your risk of cancer. Of course, having a good diet is important, and by that means it's a balanced diet. cutting down on our carbohydrates, which we take a lot, having enough protein, having enough fruits and vegetables, which we don't obviously have a lot. And then, like what Moses said, exercise. So, and especially now because many people are stuck in their homes, they've had to be creative about exercise and ensuring that you're keeping active. Yeah.
Okay, now Moses, through this whole process, you said you, at least NHIF came through for you. No, actually you said you did not go through chemo and radio because you did not have the funds for the same. So how did you cater for your medication? Off pocket?
Okay, for my medication, NHIF came through.
Okay.
It was not only covering the chemotherapy and radiotherapy, but for the treatment, it did cover.
And for you, Solomon, did you have an insurance cover?
Yeah, lucky for me, I had insurance and also NHIF.
Okay, and is it still covering your treatment to date?
Which one now?
The medication? You said you're still on medication, right?
Still on medication, but now I only do insurance.
Insurance?
Yes, insurance covers for the medication.
So you had a good reception with your insurance company when you told them you were treating cancer?
Yeah, it was not such a bad experience. It's just delayed.
But in that support group that you're in, have you heard of other stories of people who've struggled trying to actually finance their treatment?
Yes.
And what are the stories?
The stories are, managing cancer can be quite expensive, especially if you don't have insurance. Yeah, but NHIF really comes through. And also we do support each other. We really do support each other, yeah.
Okay. Moses, I am curious, who catered for your amputation?
NHIF. Yeah, it was all under NHIF.
Okay.
Yeah, it paid the whole bill from hospital bed, the food, the amputation. So now chemotherapy and radiotherapy, that was the one we're supposed to pay for.
Okay, now Daktari, when it comes to financing cancer, most people have said it can literally cripple you. Talk about this.
I think because cancer is a journey, unlike other journeys, it starts from needing a lot of tests before you are diagnosed with cancer. So we talked about having scans done, which can be expensive. Having a biopsy done also can be expensive. So even before you get to a diagnosis, people may have spent 100 to 200,000 shillings coming to a diagnosis. And then after the diagnosis, the treatments tend to be many treatments. So some cancers will require surgery first, so there's the cost of the surgery, and then some people require chemotherapy and radiotherapy. And the chemotherapy can range from anything between 3 months to 1 year, and the drugs can range from between 5,000 to $8,000 US per month every 3 weeks. So you can see that it can be quite taxing. And then we have a lot of issues with financing that. A lot of people are doing like a co-share between a national hospital insurance fund, personal insurance, and a lot of the cost will be out-of-pocket cost. So it can be quite crippling to many cancer patients. Yeah.
Okay, and do you have, or is there a facility that actually cushions those that are from really poor backgrounds but really do need help?
I think that NHIF has really stepped up from 2017 in improving access to cancer care. So they've given support for imaging, they've given support for radiotherapy, for surgery and chemotherapy. So, and a lot of this care can be accessed in government facilities at reasonable cost. The problem with that will be that there will be so many patients going to one facility, and that will lead to delays in care. And then just encouraging people to pay for their NHIF, because we have to give something to get something. So those in employment, it's naturally removed from their salary, but those who are self-employed have to pay a minimum of 500 shillings every month so that they can access this care. And if possible, people should access other forms of insurance as well, because because trying to get all your treatment out of pocket will be quite expensive.
I have somebody making a comment here. With men being the heads of the home, the providers of the home, when they're struck with cancer, some choose to die than have to actually invest in the treatment of the same. Have you faced this?
Not really, and I think that's kind of like a negative notion, because you need to live to continue providing, yeah. And a lot of the cancers, like we said, if they are caught early, you can like John, an excellent example of someone who's been alive for 6 years, doing well, able to provide for his family. So there is no reason we should lose life because of the notion that you're saving someone or saving something for the rest of the family. A lot of cancers are quite treatable and curable if caught early. And even in stage 4 disease, you can still go to work and do your things as long as you're getting treatment. Yeah.
Okay, so gentlemen, I know it can be scary. It can be scary for everyone, but as Dr. is saying, when you get screened, treatment and management is possible. So do put in some money in your NHIF, and of course, if you're able to get your private insurance, even better. Cancer is not a death sentence, as Dr. is saying. Now, in the month of November, men the world over come together to celebrate Movember. Now, Movember is an annual event involving the growing of mustaches during the month of November to raise awareness of men's health issues such as prostate cancer, testicular and men's suicide rates, etc. Now, our roving reporter Brian Mushiri went to his barber Tony from Barberia Platinum to have an in-depth conversation on Movember.
This morning on Your World, your voice brings me to one of Kenya's premium barbershops. It's Barberia Platinums. Believe it or not, I get my shave here. And I'm here to speak to my good friend who's my barber. He's called Tony. And because we're in the month of November, Tony celebrates the No Shave November month. So why would Tony want to celebrate such a month, yet he makes his money off cutting people's hair? Come with me.
Karibu sana.
So nimekaa sasa jio hii mwezi yetu mazee No Shave November.
Ya wanaume hii No Shave November.
How have you been lakini?
Mimi niko poa. Tunapiga tu shughuli hapa.
Mimi tu kakao venye tu napendanga ile cut tu.
Yeah.
Mbona una celebrate mwezi kama huu na saa hiyo wewe ni kinyozi, unatengeneza pesa yako kwa kunyoa watu?
You have to care about your society. Then hii No Shave November, it's all about tuna celebrate wase wenye wako na cancer, prostate cancer, then kuna suicide. So na pusha wase wenye mimi nyoa at least tukwe kimoja.
Inaonyesha ideally mko kimoja. So in this month wewe unasema ni sawa nyinyi mnaweza kuja ni perhaps ni kupiga cut kama venye unapiga brand Mushiri cut. Lakini we all work together in terms of making a cancer awareness a big thing.
Yeah.
Na pia nimekuwa nikiona cancer awareness really pia ni story pia ya machali. Unajua watu wengi wanajua cancer yenye tu ni ya breast. Za ladies, female cancers maybe. Pia uambia wase kuna male cancers na ziko. How do you deal with customers wenye mnasumbuana na kuna muda usiguze ndevu na ana ndevu ama nakuja usiguze ndevu hapa kwanza zimemea sana, una deal aje na mtu kama huyo?
First of all, can't always lie. Mimi usema client first of all anafaa kuwin. Unafol venye amesema nisha unaweza muambia hiyo si poa, venye unataka kufanya unaweza ifanya another way na ikuwe poa,
na ikuwe kitu. When we have this conversation ya No Shave November, kuna kitu kingine inaitwa vitu kama pressure, depression. Unaweza ambia nini wanaume hii town yani? Mtu anaona ni kama Juu pia lazima tuwa factor in, hata tukikumbuka hizo kansa zingine, let's also factor in hii kansa yenye wanaume wanajiekea, juu wengine ni kujiekea hiyo pressure. What do you think wase tunafaa tuwaongeleshe on about?
Anything ikikuja about yenye nataka kupea pressure, initially unaichukulia venye iko. Usiende ati unatafuta solution bigi, yet unaweza ifanya ikue ndogo.
Mimi nikiangalia naona ndio kuna watu wanajiekea pressure, mtu anaishi maisha yenye sio yake, si
ana fake life.
Ana fake life. Do you think kuna importance ya kuanza penye tu huko?
Si lazima ukue kwa ofisi, ukue wapi, mali tu huko. Yeah.
Sawa tu, ni sasa mimi nataka sasa tumalizie hii job. Naona niko BA, iko sawa. That has been my experience here at Barberia with my barber, Tony. Now, this month, the month of November, we celebrate the No Shave November. That explains why I didn't get my hair cut. At least I just got my outline done. Now, guys, we need to show unison for all men out there with cancer and to raise awareness on male cancers. For NTV, I'm Brian Mushiri.
Thank you, Brian Mushiri, for that perspective on Movember or No Shave November. And we'll actually be talking to one of the barbers in that barbershop who is very passionate about enabling those who are less fortunate in society. And still on Movember, have you ever seen how beards grow? Well, this month is a month you will see a lot of them, but this is how it looks like when it is sped up.
So it's the 1st of November and I'm not gonna shave for this entire month. I'm gonna take a video every day of 1 second to see the evolution. Today I started with a clean shave. So this is the result after 30 days. It's the 1st of December now and I'm gonna shave because it's starting to get annoying. So see you in the next one, guys. Bye.
So just in case you've always wondered why around this season men stop shaving their beards, their mustaches, well, it's in solidarity with those that are cancer patients or survivors. And we are intentionally creating awareness amongst men because we need to actually have more men go for screening. And as the Daktari said, they have more or have bad health-seeking behavior. So let's talk about these things. Let's understand from other men so that we may be able to reach more men. And speaking of which, our question of the day to you this morning was, are you or do you know somebody who is a cancer patient or a survivor? And what is the biggest challenge in treating and managing cancer for you? Let us know that hashtag new normal if you can have them on screen. Kevin Ombre, who says, please, I urge Kenyans pray for good health because it's not only in Kenya where you don't want to get sick. Well, Kevin, we hear you. Junior says, I'm here. And comes our leaders forcing us to accept BBI rather than working on how to improve our health sector. Junior, I hear you. And we can only do our part. Purity Wanjiko says, knowing my dad died of it. Purity Pole Sana. Alfame Zawadi says, amputation. So sorry, bro. This is to Moses, but hey, we celebrate him because he's here to tell of his story and also create awareness amongst men. And speaking of which, Moses, you walk today with a story of, winning over cancer, but there are many who lose that fight to cancer. What is your message of encouragement, especially for men who say, hospitali siwezi enda?
Okay, for me I can say that as I know men, we don't like to talk, we don't like to come out and share our grievances or our stories, but I can tell them that the more you talk, the more you'll get people out there who are going through the same experience, and you'll get a perfect support system who will be there for you. So men, we should talk, we should come out, and at least once in a year, we should go for those screenings, be of any type of cancer, prostate, bone cancer. Let's just go out there, have our screening, and know our health.
Okay, very well said. Do we still have Solomon on the phone? Okay, Solomon, you are also a survivor, and you've heard that men need to pull up their socks when it comes to checking up on their health status. What would be your words of wisdom to them?
Okay, me, what I would tell men is we should visit. We should normally go to checkups. We go to checkups often, and also let us try in as much as we can to come out whenever we have these problems. Because you see, the problem is just when we keep things to ourselves. Like for me, ilikasana before I could actually until today, sijai were free to talk to people, tell them ABCD, I'm going through ABCD. So what I can tell people, let us open up, especially us men.
Very well said, Solomon. And the question here to you, Dr. Ari, is the fact that men do not speak about it. Men are shy about going to hospital or even talking about their journey. The question is, as a hospital or even in your clinic, are you more sensitive to their needs to ensure that you actually edge them on to be the ambassadors?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that sometimes men, they would come to the clinic and I'm a woman and they'd be like, there's some things I don't want to talk about because they feel shy about talking about things. Women are very open. They will share anything and everything with you. So it's also encouraging like our women to also encourage the men to go to hospital. So it's a collective responsibility for the whole community. It's not just the one person. And if honestly, if you look at it, most of the survivors you hear of are women because women speak up. So if we have people like Victor, Moses, Solomon, and John just speaking about their journeys and that they are fine now or they're on treatment, then other men will be like, okay, it's okay for me to go out and share my story and to go and get checked. Yeah.
And full disclosure, I have to say that I had a prostate cancer survivor to join us this morning, but literally 5 p.m. yesterday, he shied away and said he did not want to talk about it, which is the story with most men. But as you've heard from Moses and Solomon, it is important that fellow men hear from men in as far as their journey is concerned and the fact that there is hope at the end of the tunnel. And speaking of which, it was intentional that we had a female oncologist on set to talk about this because also there is that fear that when a man goes to hospital and finds a female doctor, they shy away from it. Talk about your experience.
Yeah, so I mean, I think just talking about specifically prostate cancer, it's a cancer that affects a male genital organ. So talking about problems passing urine, problems with sexual relations, problems with passing stool, they have like, they're afraid to say it. But once you make them comfortable, they actually open up and are okay. So I think that it shouldn't matter whether you have a female doctor or a male doctor, you should just have a good doctor to take care of you and to take you through your journey. And whatever you say in that clinic space is confidential. We don't go and say, oh, that guy, you know, he had this and this. So just being comfortable with any doctor as long as they're a good doctor for you. Yeah.
Okay, now right after this break, we'll talk to the Baba I mentioned to you, who is dedicated to cater for those who are less fortunate in this November month. Stay with us.
Jerusalema ikayalami ilondoloze uhambe nami.
NTV brings you loads of exciting shows to keep the young ones busy as they learn.
My name is Mary. What do you like to do, Mary? I like to dance with you. Let's dance!
Kipi kikusi chako.
Kipi tiku shiki.
Kipi kikusi chacho.
It's okay, you find a way, just use your brain.
Cool.
We may be young, but we are so strong.
Tune in every weekday from 9 a.m. and Saturday from 7:30 a.m.
We may be young, but we are so strong.
Bank wakasema mwenye ako na loan tuende kwa bank. Mtu vile alikuwa amechukua loan yake kiwango yake akareduciwa. Sasa ingekuwa maisha ni ngumu kabisa. Sasa nimekuwa marafiki na Equity Bank kabisa.
Oh my, oh my, oh my days. Life is wonderful. Life is wonderful. Life is wonderful. Life is wonderful. Never understood. Life can be this good.
Thank you for staying with Your World. Let's take a look at the other world. Now, tech survey Singapore will become the world's first country to use facial verification in its national ID scheme. The system, which can be used on an app on mobile devices or as special kiosks, captures a series of photos of an individual's face in various lights and matches them with the data from government-issued IDs to verify the user's identity.
We want to have assurance that the person behind the device is a real person. It's a person who we claimed who he is. And there's not an image or a video.
It is different from face recognition, which is used, for example, in surveillance. All right? So the big difference between these two is that face verification is a intentional process. It requires the users to present themselves, okay, to provide consent.
There are perhaps fewer concerns with the use of it for authentication. The technology is still far from benign. There's still concerns through the use of our faces to access key services. Biometric technology is kind of an intrusive technology which we know has certain sets of biases, which we know can have issues identifying people of color, can have issues with women, trans people, all these groups. We have to be very cautious about whether consent is genuinely, informed and freely given in these kind of contexts. Speak with the power imbalance between yourself and the government, but also between people and the institutions like the banks and others using this kind of technology.
I think currently the government does use biometrics in many areas. For example, like at ICA, the borders. So I think they already have the data, and so far there's been no breach or whatsoever, so I'm fine with it.
Now, from monitoring vital signs to filtering filthy air and even translating speech into other languages, the coronavirus-fueled boom in mask wearing has spawned an unusual range of high-tech face coverings. As masks become the norm worldwide, tech companies and researchers are rolling out weird and wonderful models to both guard against infection and cash in on growing trends.
Many of these frontline workers will be exposed to the patients when they are taking the vital signs. This poses a health risk to the patients, to the nurses, the frontline workers. And we wanted to think about a way to reduce such risk. We hope that this thing can be used as maybe a simple indicator of the early signs or danger signs of maybe an infection coming. And we will be able to warn the people to quickly go and see a doctor to get a swab done or to get their proper checks done.
Velocity, an electric flying taxi which takes off vertically like a helicopter, has been showcased in France. The president of the Ile-de-France region says this is one of the partners of a project together with the RATP and the ADP group. Real-life test flights are due to begin in June of 2021. It is totally electric, therefore it is decarbonated, therefore it does not pollute, and then it brings a new solution, and it is totally innovative. It's very exciting to think that we are inventing a new mode of transport. Well, the CEO of Argentine biotechnology company Bioceres praises the approval of genetically modified wheat for growth and consumption. An environmentalist is raising an alarm on the effects of the same as the South American country becomes the first in the world to approve genetic transformation in wheat. Experts in the Winter Cereals Committee of the National Seeds Institute expressed concern over the government green-lighting of the project. In a letter, they warned that no country approved the use of transgenic wheat varieties due to the non-acceptance by local and or foreigners, consumers of products made with transgenic crops, and the difficulty of keeping GMO and non-GMO production separate. They said eventual approval, but the Brazilian government does not guarantee that mills, bakeries and individual consumers will agree to buy our GMO wheat, and if they do, there is not a guarantee that they will do so without a price discount. Architect Dragana Kojakic is making breathable houses out of mud in Mosori in Sabia, and for the past 10 years has been developing the Center for Earth Architecture, overcoming the challenges of being a woman in the predominantly male craft. She started organizing workshops attended primarily by women that she has since been teaching her earth building techniques. Dragana says earth as material is becoming more and more interesting. It was used a long time ago but is now being used again as an answer to the climate changes. Now the idea is to work locally, and the earth has a great number of great positive characteristics such as thermal regulation of the environment, then the excess moisture that is absorbed from the air, and so on. In Dubai, Crown Prince Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed inaugurates the Hamdan Smart Station for simulation and training as Dubai introduces a facial recognition system on public transport to beef up security as the Emirate prepares to host the Global Expo exhibition. Now, the director of Dubai's Transport Security Department says we, at the Transportation Security Department, aspire to raise our performance by building on our current capabilities to ensure a high level of security in metro stations and other transport sectors to achieve the UAE's and Dubai's ambition to make the transportation sector highly secure. Away from that, people clean up the damaged dormitory of an education center in the Afghan capital Kabul. A suicide bomber struck nearby. Now, the attack is claimed by the extremist Islamic State, and at least 18 people were killed in that attack. A suicide bomber struck near an education center in the Afghan capital, and violence on the ground has spiked in recent weeks despite the Taliban and the Afghan government holding peace talks in Qatar to end the country's grinding war. Now, the suicide attack, which also left 57 wounded, happened in the late afternoon at a center in the western district of Kabul, which offers training and higher education courses. Now, under strict health and safety measures, the first tourists arrive in Varadero, one of Cuba's most famous beach resorts, after a 7-month shutdown imposed to prevent the spread of COVID-19. And now one of the Cuban tourists says as soon as we entered the hotel, they immediately took our temperature and poured the liquid on us, that is the sanitizer. You can see how they are clean, or how they clean all the tables with the chlorine. There is a lot of protection. And another tourist said the buffet is good and tables are apart from one another, and the cleanliness is good. Everything seems good. Cuba will approve in November its first ever legislation on animal well-being, a long-awaited decision for civil society. Animal defenders argue this will be a step towards modernity in an island where dog and cock fights, as well as religious sacrifices, remain common. In sharp contrast, at the Don Silva Salon in the Santa Fe neighborhood, Cocker Spaniel Doki yawns as his claws are filed before receiving a shampooing to remove itchy ticks, and on the next table, Chihuahua Luna jumps as a hairdryer is turned on to style her coat. It was one of the first canine beauty salons to open in Cuba in 2012 by owner Loretta Rivero, who is aged 50. And back to our conversation of the day, we are focusing on male cancers on this Movember or No Shave November. And speaking of which, we are now joined on the phone by Nilo Rado, who is better known to you as Dola Barberia. He's a barber and founder of Nilo Rado Family Foundation. Now, Barberia, this has been a culture for you for the last how long? Umekuwa ukifanya No Shave November campaign kwa muda upi?
Hello?
Unanipata?
Yes.
Umekuwa ukifanya No Shave November campaign kwa muda upi?
Hi. No Shave November it started last year. Tulikuwa tunafanya fundraising ya kusaidia au patients wako na ugonjwa ya cancer. In order to kwa support kuwaonyesha bado ni bako na sisi basi poteze moyo.
Okay, na ukisema kusupport, mnawasupport vipi?
No Shave November it's a month ya kupunguza some services tunafanya in barber shops in order to support au watu wako na hiyo ugonjwa ya cancer. Tunatafuta some donation tukawapea.
So mnawapatia chakula, mnawalipia hospitali ama?
Wengi tunawapatia some gift as nguo, as some food, and na tukajaribu kuwafanyia hata na services tunafanyanga kwa barber shop as kushave, kwa share. Last time tulikuwa Dangote, tulikuwa tumefanya kwa Home of Age for Age. Tumefanya hiyo kampeni ya No Shave November.
Aha, na sasa hawa watu mnawapata vipi? Mnaenda kwenye mahospitali, mnaenda manyumbani ama vipi?
Tunatafuta some places tunajua kuna watu wako na hiyo shida ya cancer, hiyo ugonjwa ya cancer. Then tukaconnect nao, then after tuka zile support tuko nazo tukawapea.
Aha, na sasa wale customers ambao wanakuja kwenye barber shop yako, unawajulisha vipi ambavyo wanaweza saidia pia?
Already this month tunafanya some discounting in order tujaribu tusaidiane, tusaidia au patients wako na cancer. Tunapunguza some product, tukapunguza some service za barber shop, then tukafanya fundraising na all clients and with company, tukatafuta zile support tumepata, tukawapelekea au watu wako na hiyo ugonjwa wa cancer.
Okay, na wakati mnafanya fundraising, pia mnaongea wanaume kwa wanaume kuhusu cancer na umuhimu wa kwenda hospitali kufanya screening?
Tunafanyanga juu already it's a mark of cancer. So lazima tunamwelezea No Shave November what is that.
Okay, na sasa wewe kama Dola, ushawaipata yeyote kwenye familia ama mtu ambaye unajua kama rafiki ambaye amekuwa na cancer?
Rafiki kwa familia sina, but rafiki najua kuna wenye wako na cancer, but unatry kumwambia it's a life goes on. Ukamwambia, ukamwelezea, na yeye anaweza kaa sana asikufe na moyo.
Okay, sasa kuna celebrities wengi ambao wanakuja kwenye barber shop yako. Wanakusaidia na hii foundation na kusaidia wale ambao wanaishi na cancer?
Kuna project tulikuwa tumefanya according to COVID-19 ya Nilo Rado Family. Hiyo Nilo Rado Family nimepata masponsor juu ile time kwa COVID-19 inaanza. Watu wengi sana walikuwa kuwa na some mask. Sasa tumetry kujaribu kufanya fundraising, tukapeana hizo maski kwa maslums like Madale, Huruma, Kariobank, and some part of Isili. Kuna maserebu wengi wamenisupport, like Huda amenisupport 1,000 mask, and nashukuru sana. Boniface Mangi na yeye amenisupport already, alikuwa on field. Guardian Angel. Kuna my boss is Dr. Mary and Brian Otienne. Amenisupport as gift na pia. Watu wengine ni all clients from Barbaria. Wametry kutusupport.
Na sasa mimi kama mtu wa kawaida Nilorado, ningetaka kuja hapo nikusaidie pia na hii fundraising. Nitakupata vipi?
Venye ukikam niko Barbaria, Reuters Street, Pension Towers. Niko Pension Towers, Reuters Street. Ukikam tunakuelezea No Shave November, the purpose of No Shave November, then after tukakuelezea kama uko na support, tunaweza fanya your fundraising, then tukatake some days tukaenda ku support au watu wako na hiyo ugonjwa wa cancer.
Okay, now Barbaria, even as we continue to create awareness, ungetaka kuambia wanaume wenzako vipi kuhusu kwenda hospitali na pia kufanya screening?
Yeah. Kenye naweza waambia, lazima hii maisha lazima tujipange, tujue venye tuko sahi. Unavaa uende hospitali upime uone hali yako ikwaje. Vitakusaidia sana. Sasa kenye nawaambia hii No Shave November tunaweza fanya some connection with the hospital. Tukakuwa tuna direct watu hospitali wataenda.
Thank you so much. You've been speaking to Nilorado, aka Dollar Barbaria. He's a barber and founder of Nilorado Family Foundation, who have been behind the No Shave November, at least here in Nairobi. He's been very passionate about it in ensuring that he supports the less fortunate, especially those that are faced with cancer, and also passing on the message to fellow men on the importance of actually going for screening and taking your own health in your own hands. Now, even as we put this conversation to bed, I'll start off with you, Moses. In your journey and your experience with bone cancer, what would be your parting shot to other men and as a country at large?
Okay, before I get to a question, first I'd like to say, as you all know, cancer is a non-communicable disease, and there's a way these diseases are connected. So when you get cancer, you're likely to get maybe another NCD. So as we focus on cancer, I'd like to tell people that we should not forget about other non-communicable diseases, because there is no need of me treating cancer and tomorrow I end up with diabetes or hypertension or stroke. So we should focus on all these NCDs, and that's why we have an umbrella body called Non-Communicable Disease Alliance of Kenya. So you can just visit them and they can direct you on which support group you can join and how to get help. And also one day I would like to come to this show, not as a cancer survivor, but as an oncologist or a doctor. So my dream is just one day to go back to school and pursue that course in medicine. And now to your question about men, I can tell them that even me, I was not free to talk. There's a point where I reached and I chose death over life at first, because I was afraid, like, how will people see me? I'm still young, I still have a lot ahead of me. I have to date, I have to get married, job. So I was afraid, and I thought that this money that I'm going to use for treatment, why can't they just buy a coffin so that at least I can go in peace? But it reached a point my mom talked to me, and I came to realize now the importance of life. And maybe that's why today I'm here, giving hope to someone out there. And I like to tell them that no matter what you're going through, just reach out to someone, talk to them. You will find a support system out there that is willing to have you and you can share your story with them, and at least from there you can see the purpose and need of life.
Thank you, Moses, for that. And over to Solomon, who is joining us on phone. What's your parting shot?
Okay, my parting shot would be, I would urge men to come out and go for tests, because one thing, cancer is not a death sentence, and with the advance in technology, people are getting killed. So you come out, stand at find a test, and life will go back to normal.
Thank you, Solomon, for joining us and sharing your journey as well. And of course, Dr. Sitner, it has been quite an experience, I can imagine, dealing with men because of either cultural or traditional outlook on how men should perceive their health status. What is your word of encouragement to the men and society at large?
Yeah, I think we should all take individual responsibility for our health and not be shy. There's nothing that doctors have not seen or not heard, so don't be afraid to come. And if you come, we are going to keep everything you tell us confidential. So there is no reason to be afraid to seek health. But I think for me, the important message is that there is hope in everything. There is hope in having a cancer diagnosis. Even if it is an advanced disease, there's always something that someone can do. So there's no reason to keep away with your symptoms until they've really become, out of hand. So if you have symptoms that are persisting, go to your doctor. If you're in this age for screening, go for screening, because screening means that we will get your disease early and it will be treatable and curable. But even if your disease is advanced, there's no reason to lose hope.
Okay, very well said. Dr. Sitner, who was joining us, she is Dr. Sitner Mwanzi, an oncologist from the Aga Khan University Hospital. Solomon Joroge joining us on phone, who is a breast cancer survivor. We're also joined by Moses Sotino in the other studio. He's a bone cancer survivor. And of course, also on phone was Nilo Rado, aka Dola Baberia, who is pushing that hashtag No Shave November, even as we dedicate the month to men's health. Thank you all for joining us on this conversation. Now, tomorrow we focus on marriage and dating among persons living with disability. Ever wondered how the world perceives those living with disability when it comes to these social issues, or how they experience societal norms or expectations on the same? Well, we find out from 7 a.m. See you then.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Taught us, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that we should keep cleanliness. Actually, he said that cleanliness is what is best for a Muslim. And from him, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, hand washing, which is part of cleanliness, hand washing, that we wash our hands, we wash our faces, we wash every time with soap. This is part of what the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam taught us.
The repeal, 1 year later. How have commercial bank lending rates evolved ever since?
So if we feel that they are going back where they were raising interest up to 25%, up to 30%, we can go back to the drawing board.
How are banks pricing risk?
That is not going back to the old model. In our risk-based pricing models, what they call the ethical banking, and providing value return for customers of the industry.
In the next edition of Business Redefined, we host the Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Bankers Association to unpack the state of the banking sector.
Akili, 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 akili.
Will you wash your hands with me? I want to wash my hands with you. Come on, I will show you what to do. Wash your hands in clean water. Wash your hands, wet them with the water. Wash your hands, now add some soap. Scrub your hands in the soap and water. Scrub above and below between the fingers too. Scrub under your nails and scrub a dub-a-doo. Rinse your hands in water. Rinse them clean, rinse away the soap. Dry your hands and go.
Akili, why do we wash our hands?
To wash away the germs.
Akili, what are germs?
They're like tiny little bugs on your hands and they can make you sick.
But I don't see any germs on my hand.
That's because they're so tiny that you can't even see them.
Oh wow! I want to wash the germs away. Will you wash your hands with me, Akili?
Of course!
Go ahead is believing to make each day a brighter day. It's those small acts that go a long way. Go ahead is our determination to rise. Going ahead is our courage to do something new. Go ahead is never giving up in the face of adversity. It means growing our own. It is making the most of what we have. To go ahead. Now, that is the Kenyan spirit.
Sumo Premium Candles. It is made of pure, fully refined paraffin wax. It doesn't have smoke. It has long burning hours. It is non-drip. It doesn't smell.
Always smile and walk with Sumo Candle from Rock Industries Limited. For inquiries, visit our offices at Ndume Road off Lungalunga Road, behind Carton Manufacturers near Sinai Stage. You can also talk to us through 0722 575 619.
Do your gums hurt?
Yeah.
Does your toothpaste contain sage, eucalyptus, myrrh, chamomile?
All that in one toothpaste?
Yes, try Colgate Herbal. Colgate Herbal contains nature's best herbs and Colgate's fluoride technology to give you strong teeth and healthy gums.
Ah, Colgate Herbal.
Let's go. Colgate Herbal for strong teeth and healthy gums naturally.
Nawa mikono sasa. Nawa mikono sasa. Nawa mikono sasa. Nawa mikono sasa. Unawajua mikono ni mojawapo ya njia bora zaidi ya kukukinga dhidi ya magonjwa na ya kukufanya uwe na afya kwa mwaka mzima.
Welcome to Pishi Home Chef.
Oh, just perfect.
We're gonna be cooking breakfast.
Making chicken shikaki, carbonara.
And I'm so happy to be on this show.
Most people think I can't cook again. I forgot onions.
times, or I have to call her literally to call her and ask her and say your recipe.
Pishi ndio hii. Check out at Pishi254.
We are Nation, Africa's independent media brand. We are committed to empowering all Africans, from the young to the old, from the curious to the educated, and from the heart of the cities to the rural areas. We are Nation. Join us, because if you want to get far, you do it together. Nation. Empower Africa.